a program that we're going to be doing more of this year, because as Gavin and I have been huddling, we've been talking about how we're going to increase the cadence of this kind of programming going into 2020. So we'll be meeting up here the fourth Thursday of every month in this corner with different guests, just talking about the challenges that we all have building community around a better way of doing business. And it's I'm really pleased to see such a group here tonight, some of which I don't know, and it's always interesting. I'd also like to welcome Bob from the New York City chapter. So we met with Bob and the chair of the New York City chapter yesterday. We're going to be doing some more programming together with them too. So thanks for coming in, Bob.
Is he going to get an award for the person that came the longest distance?
Yeah, he came from West Point, so I saw
From line? Okay.
No worries.
So you're welcome to sign up for more updates like this on our website, so you can get be advised of these events that we're having and others. I really welcome you to do that. And that's about it for now, but I did want to thank Lee Cruz for coming tonight. Lee and I have known one another for about 10 years. We first met at another co-working space called The Grove, which was a bit of a pioneering space in terms of community building from my side, because I'd come from the corporate world, and I started going to The Grove, which was only a mile away. It's also where I met Eleanor. And I discovered a part of the community that was previously invisible to me, and that was the non-profit community. And it was an enlightening time, because I got to meet a whole pool of people that were very passionate about what they do and driven by a strong sense of purpose, and really exciting people to be around. Because and Lee was one of the most prominent members of that first encounter of the non-profit community. So, but for those of us that don't know about Lee Cruz, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to?
Okay, well, so let me just start at a personal level. So my name is Lee Cruz. I work at the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. We are the largest philanthropic entity in Greater New Haven. We have approximately $462 million under management that has either been donated to us or we have earned through investment, and then that allows us to give out approximately $24 to $30 million a year in grants to nonprofits. A little bit later on, I'll be talking about, because that's not what I'm talking about, so forget everything I just said. A little bit later on, I'll be talking about how we've expanded from lending to nonprofits to lending to for-profit businesses into a new arena that we're just literally in the midst of planning for right now, which is to develop a regional inclusive economic development program that will expand our lending to for-profits, but focus it in on people who have been left out of the economy. And we're gonna hold that thought in your mind, because we're gonna come back to it at the very end. So I was born and raised in New York City, South Bronx, born in Manhattan, South Bronx, and I grew up in New York City, Puerto Rico, where my parents are from, here in Connecticut, went to undergraduate in Rhode Island, graduate school in Boston, and just for a little twist, I lived for 12 years in Nicaragua, in Central America, doing international development work, which also is relevant to what I learned that I'll be sharing tonight. That's it.
Well, I didn't know about the Nicaragua chapter, Lee, so that's something we're going to dive into. 12 years in Nicaragua is not to be laughed at. So how did you start doing this work, and what was the genesis of it? What was the thing that got you rolling in that direction?
So because I work at a nonprofit, I wasn't as motivated at the beginning in terms of looking for a space in the market. I was simply motivated to start the work that we're going to be talking about because we needed money for a charity, for charitable work. That's how it started. But it soon came to my attention that something that I had learned from doing the international development work was also which was in a very poor, one of the poorest countries in the Americas, Nicaragua. It's actually Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua, three poorest countries, and Bolivia's in there too. So, anyway, so something that I had learned there was relevant here, which is if you can figure out a way, and you'll have to forgive me because these words, they may sort of roll off your tongue if you own a business, but these are foreign words to me. This is a different language that I've had to learn. So what we've done is we found a way to aggregate ourselves, and as a result of that, we can sell ourselves as residents, as a unit, to local businesses who will buy what we are selling, which is ourselves as customers. And then I realized, oh, not only is that true, but I can also actually find other customers who would not normally come to local businesses. I can aggregate them and bring them in. And when I do that, then businesses are I'm no longer going to businesses on our main street in this neighborhood that I gave you, like Fairhaven, which literally is like on the other side of the railroad tracks. Like, this is no joke. We are on this neighborhood, which is one of New Haven's 6 poorest neighborhoods, is on the other side of those railroad tracks right here. We aggregated ourselves and delivered ourselves, and basically I now go to the businesses with an invoice once a year for what they owe us, for the customers we're bringing to them. I figure we're roughly bringing, at least the restaurants, about $1,500 to $2,000 a year in business, and we ask them for $300 a year.
I'm sorry, who is we?
So I'm here tonight
Chatham.
talking about the Chatham Square Neighborhood
Okay.
Association. So if you look
Right.
at the map at the bottom, it says note that that's the website. So you can go and look at our website and see how it looks like, and the simple way to explain it to people who are not familiar with this work, it looks like the businesses that are listed there are buying advertising for us on the website. That is the least value that they get. The most value that they get is that in our neighborhood, we do a thing called Community Dining Out Night. We started doing it every other month, but now, because the city of New Haven is actually going to close that bridge right there for 22 months, the residents said, why don't we do Community Dining Out Night every month? So what we do is on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night, a group of us that can range from 12 to 50 go to a local restaurant with no meeting, no agenda other than to buy food at that restaurant. And so when somebody goes to you as a restaurant owner and says on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, I could bring 12 to 20, 30, 50 people, are you interested? You know, what's the answer to that going to be, right? No, don't bring them. So then that community dining out night is the base for building community in our neighborhood, along with another thing we call soup night, but that's another thing. So we do more social gathering meetings that don't have agendas than ones that do. And then the other thing I figured out is that there are people at Yale University, at Quinnipiac, at Southern, that want to understand how their profession is relevant to the work in our neighborhood. So it may be, for example, Yale University used to have a program called the Robert Wood Johnson Fellows, and that's how I started with them. So somebody knows me said, hey, could you do a tour of your neighborhood? And I said, absolutely, yes. You'll have to pay me to do it. And then also at the end of the tour, I want to take people to a local restaurant so that we can debrief. So I get paid, and the money, because this is not a business, right? I work at the Community Foundation, I get my salary. We put that money into the fund. We have funded the United Way. Then we go to the restaurants, they get $200 or $300, sometimes $500 from that exchange, where people sit down and eat at the restaurant. And so those are the two main ways that we provide customers to our local restaurants. We also work with realtors and apartment buildings and the Mary Wade Home for the Elderly, positioning them as, if you're thinking of living here, here's an apartment building, here's a realtor. If you're elderly, here's the Mary Wade Home. And so all of those organizations additionally give us money. And then that money, we actually use it, our business is, we're giving that money away to people who live in the neighborhood to make murals, to serve the elderly, to serve youth. Then we document those things on the website that you're gonna go to later on that makes the neighborhood look like a desirable place to live, which then in turn makes it so that more people come into our neighborhood. So we've created a loop.
So that's the goal here, right?
So that is the goal, to build a sustainable neighborhood that is attractive. We're not interested in getting everybody to live in our neighborhood. We're interested in people understanding that there's a reason why you would want to live in our neighborhood. And if you fit into that reason, you need you're elderly, you have a house out in one of the shore towns, you might want to sell your house and get an apartment in the new 84-unit building that the Mary Wade Home is living, as a first step that will eventually lead to the services that they offer, which are end-of-life services. But it doesn't have to start there. It can start at that apartment building.
So why did you select this community, this map? What was
This
the criteria for that?
Okay, so this map is reflects the fact that we knew that one of the other problems in our neighborhood is that it is one of the 6-point neighborhoods. People are afraid to come to our neighborhood because they think because it's a poor neighborhood, there must be high crime. As a matter of fact, statistics bear out that crime is way down in our neighborhood. And the people who live in the neighborhood are uncomfortable walking around. They don't know where to walk. They don't know that walking is good for their health. So we worked with all the organizations that are listed in the front here and got them to contribute. After we had a conversation with dozens of neighbors, and we decided these are really good places to walk on the waterfront, 1.5 miles, a 5-mile loop, et cetera, et cetera. And I went to the Community Foundation where I worked, and I said something that kind of blew their mind, which is, I need your help, and I don't need money, because we have money. And so that kind of really is a really difficult thing for people who are charitable and have power to really kind of wrap their minds around, that you would come to them and say, I don't want your money. What I know you do is you hire people to design things. You hire people to print, you hire people. So what I need is your expertise to help us get the pictures of our neighborhood that we need to make the place look like the attractive place that it is, the design elements. And we have raised the money, and we have picked a printer who's in our neighborhood, Phoenix Press. They're gonna print it for us. What we need is the marketing expertise and the design expertise. And we printed these up at Phoenix Press, 10,000 copies, and we hand them out through realtors. When someone's gonna move into the neighborhood, they can move into the neighborhood. We hand them out through all the schools, and we hand them out through the health centers. And so this is a way to promote the neighborhood in a way that builds upon what we've been talking about.
You also do the traditional kind of like branding campaign, what are our keywords going to be about the neighborhood, and you know, those.
So if you go to our neighborhood website, what you'll see is that it says Chatham Square Association, Fairhaven, a diverse community with historic homes, with historic homes and a beautiful waterfront. And that came out of the conversation that we had among ourselves. Like, what do we want people to think about when they think about our neighborhood? And what are the words that are going to include the people we want to come into our neighborhood and exclude the people we don't want? So if you don't want to live in a diverse neighborhood, don't come here or be in a diverse neighborhood, because around my house, the languages that are spoken are English and Spanish, Italian and Polish, French and Hebrew, and Mandarin. And that's just around my house. We actually have about 18 nationalities represented. And then also, if you go on our website, I figured out a way to do this is you can click on a button and it translates our website into 26 languages. And people are reading the content of our website in Polish and in Mandarin and in, et cetera, which again feeds into this idea we are a diverse community.
So I guess one of the themes that I'm hearing is food, right?
Mhm.
Getting people to explore different cuisines as part of the cultural journey.
Absolutely. So I've been doing focus tours for people who work in medicine, people that work in law, people that work in all these different areas. And then I realized I have a relationship with all these restaurants. So I went to the Festival of Arts and Ideas and I said, I have done one, and I would like to do every year at least one tour of the restaurants on Grand Avenue. So that became the Grand Avenue gastronomical tour. Can't even say it, right? So we get about 50 people in 2 groups
Sold out.
in June. Sold out. It's 100%, sold out. It's during the festival, and people are coming from all over the region, and we gather at a park, and we walk a mile, and in that mile, we will visit in 3 hours, we walk 1 mile. We visit 6 restaurants: Italian, Puerto Rican, Peruvian, Mexican, and then we go to a fresh fruit place where they make juices for you on the spot from fresh fruit, Mexican owned. And what happens is that people are like, wow, and in between we talk about the history of the neighborhood, right? As we go from restaurant to restaurant. What I'm most happy about that is that the restaurant owners tell us that people come back. Because why? They have been introduced by a local, they've met the owner of the restaurant, they've tasted the food, and what's cooler than working somewhere in the suburbs or downtown and saying to your friends, hey, let me take you to this great Mexican restaurant that I discovered, right? That's not a chain or something like that, where I know the owner and I can go in and say hello to Juana, who owns Salsa, authentic Mexican restaurant, get the best mole probably in Connecticut. And so that's how you build these things up. And so that's what's exciting to me about this, that there isn't we've reached some pinnacle where there's always some new thing to do, some new opportunity.
Marna's wondering why we're not meeting there.
Yeah.
Why are we showing up to Poland?
That was a tease.
So yeah.
What was your goal when you set out on this mission? Because that's when we first met, and I remember you telling us about this, and I'm delighted to hear that it's still going.
Yeah.
How do you gauge success, and why did you do it?
I think we're in our 11th year of doing this, and clearly, as I said at the beginning, it was well, the pre-genesis is that the Community Foundation hired me to work as a community organizer in that neighborhood, and the goal was to increase home ownership. Right? So we are rocking, right? It's 2006 and we are rocking on home ownership. And then what happened in 2008? The market crash. And the foundation moved on in another direction to do other really important work, and I still work there and I'm committed to that work. But as a neighborhood, we had to decide, are we going to continue to operate? We weren't even an association at that time. We were just a group of residents working with the Community Foundation on a bunch of things to increase home ownership. And we decided, yes, we're going to continue, and we're going to call ourselves the Chatham Square Neighborhood Association. And then the next question is, how are we going to fund ourselves? Because the Community Foundation is no longer giving us money. 2008 was the last time we got a penny from the foundation, although the foundation is one of the sponsors for our Riverfest, so they still do give us money for that. And they claim us every chance they get. And that's good, because I want philanthropic entities to see themselves as being connected to and involved in what is a relatively distressed neighborhood. But the initial goal was really to raise money so that we could use it to serve the neediest in our community. That was the genesis. But then I fairly quickly realized that you can't get very far asking people, particularly restaurant owners in a poor neighborhood, to give you money, because they are operating on such thin margins. They are literally struggling themselves. We have worked with restaurants that have closed down. You know, they just could not maintain themselves. But now we're a significant part of the revenue stream for those restaurants. I would welcome any of you to come on the gastronomical tour, or if you're interested for any reason. Last year I took Garth, the relatively new head of the local Chamber of Commerce, the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce. Garrett, right. And I took him on a tour. I took him to one of the restaurants they eat, but then we went on a tour. And while he was at the Boathouse Cafe restaurant, which is one of the restaurants that unfortunately has closed, 2 people approached him about becoming a member of the chamber. So that lunch paid for itself in two memberships to the Chamber of Commerce, a construction company and one other company. So that's what got it started. What sustains it is the realization that if we're going to have a vibrant, vital community that's going to raise itself up and balance some amount of, for you guys this won't be controversial, but in a lot of circles I travel, this is controversial, it will balance some amount of gentrification is necessary in our neighborhood, because we can't be the neighborhood for poor Latinos, just like New Hallville can't be the neighborhood for poor Black people. It has to be a neighborhood that spans a spectrum of people that are willing to live there, want to live there, know why they're choosing to live there, and a group of people that do business there. And the more actually those two are one and the same, people that live there and do business there, even better, right? But for starters, at least those two. When we find that intersection, that creates the stability that is necessary to both attract more of the businesses we need and want, and attract more of the people that will use those businesses. My goal is for people who live in my neighborhood to not have to leave my neighborhood unless they want to. If they want to shop for food, they get food. If they need a dry cleaner, they have a dry cleaner. If they need a realtor, there's a realtor. Everything you need is within 20 minutes of your house. That is a vibrant neighborhood. And if we could do that all across New Haven, then that to me would be a really good thing.
And you're talking about 20 minutes on foot.
Yeah, I'm talking 20 minutes on foot, yeah. 20 minutes in car. 20 minutes in car, you can get to Meredith. No. 20 minutes on foot.
So is that your master plan?
Well,
Have you created something you think is sort of, you can replicate in a similar way?
Yeah, I think honestly that there are more neighborhoods in New Haven than people think in which this could happen. one of the key, to me, sort of the key litmus test is, do you have any sort of a main street? So you could do this, well, you could do this very easily, and I have been in touch with the people in Westville, for those that are local, and people in Worcester Square. But you could do this in Dixwell. You can do this in Dwight, Beaver Hill. They have Whaley Avenue. You can do this in several places. It's a little bit more challenging to do it in Newhallville because they've kind of lost their main street. But you can, this is replicable. And not just in New Haven, you can do this in Hamden. People could think this way in Branford, or maybe in Lyme, I don't know, the main street. So to think not just about themselves as people who live in the neighborhood, but think about who owns a business here and what is our relationship to them in a more conscious way than you would otherwise. It's like, oh, what a shame, the coffee shop closed. We had 2 dry cleaners on Grand Avenue between Quinnipiac River over here and before you cross the railroad tracks and get into Worcester Square. Both of them owned by Italian families. One lasted 55 years. The other one lasted 42 years. They both closed. One of the business spaces is now occupied by the first Black-owned barbershop in Fairhaven, and the other one is empty. That building, for any other type of business, is more contaminated than it's probably worth. But we have no dry cleaners. So right now, I am looking for a dry cleaners. So if any of you own a dry cleaners, right, and you want to open up a new location, there's no competition where there were 2 dry cleaners before for the better part of a mile. That's a market opportunity.
Have you presented to like economic development commissions in Hampden or the South Connecticut region of governments or any of those kind of?
I have not. It's something that I would be interested in. If anyone can open that door, I would be happy to do that. I have presented to the Economic Development Committee of the Chamber of Commerce. But again, the scale, that was at a request because the scale is wrong. They're operating at a different level. The stuff that I talked about, just too big. Yeah. The stuff that I'm talking about is more for the people struggling with keeping a main street open in their town.
I think West Haven would be interested.
Or West Haven or something like that.
How do you reconcile, for me, there's a lot of consumers shifting to Amazon as a first choice of shopping, right? And yet, Main Street is dying in a lot of small towns. Yeah. So there's this sentiment of like, well, we always want the Main Street experience, but their behaviour doesn't support that, right? So what you're saying is that you have to be actively engaged in your community in a very much focused way.
People are much more likely to buy from a business where they know the owner, where they feel a relationship. I had never actually thought about this, and this isn't even something I made a note about, but I will always remember Ann Calabrese. Some of you know her. She's a long-time, wonderful human being, helped start the Festival of Arts and Ideas and Leap and so on and so forth. And she and I were having a conversation, and she said to me at one point, what's missing is the third piece, which is in the middle. So you have these people in your life that are friends, and you go to their house, you have a beer with them, maybe play softball or golf with them, and so on and so on. All the time in there that is a cashier, or that bags your groceries, or that does whatever for you out of business, and you might even know their name, but the whole interaction is a transaction. What's missing in the middle, what is disappearing in the United States, is the opportunity to walk into a dry cleaners or a restaurant or any other service type business and know the owner of that business by name and have them know and be able to say to you, how's your son Pablo? My son Pablo, who's 8. How's he doing? Hey, is he still running? You know, because like we talked at one point about him being a long distance runner and runs 5K races. And there is a value and a comfort and a niceness about that certain people appreciate. I would grant you that there are gated communities where people drive in and drive out. My sister lives in a suburb in Phoenix, and she has to drive 15, 20 minutes to go anywhere to do anything. And it's a lifestyle choice, but there are people that want to live in places where there is that third element in the middle. I happen to be one of them, and I'm interested in aggregating more of those people and getting them to live in my neighborhood.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the measures you're talking about health, but I too like that. But from a mental health
Yes.
standpoint, I think, we know in our town, I don't know statistics or you could know, but we have a lot of challenges around mental health problems, but having that sense of community, that stability, that ecosystem that we are all in this together in life, I think that does help you cope with, depression and challenges.
I have not been able to connect with the psychiatry department at Yale, so if anyone has a connection, but I have connected with the health department. And we have doctors walking through our neighborhood. I do 6 to 8 tours a year for medical residents. As a matter of fact, the internal medicine department at Yale, the entire department, all the people that come are required to take my tour of Fairhaven. It's just like something that the university arranges and pays for. But one of the doctors at the Fairhaven Community Health Center heard that I was doing this and saw this map and said, why don't we start a walking program for our patients? We're doctors, we have a limited amount of time with them, and what we'd like to do is, and we haven't started doing this yet. We did one pilot one. We're gonna start doing it now probably in like April when it warms up. And the idea is one Saturday a month, we will gather and we'll take one of these loops and we'll talk about the businesses, we'll talk about the community gardens, we'll talk about the land, the New Haven Farms gardens that focus on people with diabetes, and we will bring them there, and the people that will be on the walk with them will be their doctor or their provider, a nurse, or someone who works in the clinic, who through investing of their personal time, because these will happen on Saturday, will be saying to folks, it's not about you just showing up for your appointment when we tell you to come and taking your medicine. We know you have challenges in showing up because you have 2 or 3 jobs and no health insurance to buy the medicine we're prescribing to you. But, I mean, I don't want to get too far, but we love you anyway, even if you don't show up to your appointment as regularly as we would like, or you don't take your medicine. And when you show that kind of love to people, then people do everything they can to conform to what you're telling them to do in a way that's much more powerful and effective. And I kid you not, because we did a study. We talked to doctors at Yale. This is about to be published, and we said to them, why is it that your patients aren't having the outcomes that you want, that you expect them to have? And the first 2 things they said is, it's clear. They don't show up to their appointments, and then we prescribe them medicine and they don't take it. Then we take the doctors on the tour and we give them the survey again, and those 2 things aren't even in the top 10 of reasons, because now they understand what some of the challenges are. Here's what we're trying to figure out now. When you take a person who is prejudiced and you take them out of the place where they learn to be prejudiced, they can actually learn to not be prejudiced anymore. But if you put them back in that environment, because human beings are more like dogs than like cats, we're more like a group thing, people actually go back to being prejudiced, to being, let's call it what it is, to being racist. Let's call it what it is. But here's the thing. We're trying to figure out what is the dose. What is the dose, in medical terms, what is the dose that doctors need, and medical professionals need How often do we need to bring them out to a neighborhood where their challenged, patients are, so that we can remind them that it's not that people don't want to show up. It's not that they don't want to buy their medicine. It's that they have other challenges.
Two things that spring to mind regarding youth and the picture is like in the process of defining circles where it's okay to roam, away from home as kids grow. It seems so much safer if you know the person in the convenience store or the library is within walking distance, and even starting from the neighborhood schools, based on, there's really good research that says that for educated parents, if parents are educated, it really doesn't matter much what elementary school
The
kids go to. Like the search for the quote-unquote good school, that's a code word for, whatever people they want their kid to be around, is just based on bogusness. And, I think a return to the intelligences that can spring from being located in your school community are very profound. And then the circle of safety that expands as they grow up in the kind of community that you're talking about.
Well, it's about anxiety.
I wanted to take Lisa's question, but about that specifically, I want to say this. My son Pablo's 8, his brother's 5. Since Pablo was 5 and Mateo could barely walk, they have walked around the block where we live, the entire block, which is a good-sized block. And they walk around the block because there are very few people who don't know them by name. And they know all the houses around the block where if they have any problem, they can just walk into that house, they can run into that house. I've had neighbors call me and say, I saw, because they themselves are a bit uncomfortable with the idea that kids 5 and 8 would walk around the city block by themselves. I say, oh, no, we know they're walking. They have permission. My kids go to Columbus School. It's one of the schools on Grand Avenue. They walk to school, but I have to go pick them up because the school system has a policy that unless you're 10 years old, they don't release you. And here's the irony about let's bring it back to the research and the study. In 35 years, the statistics on kids being kidnapped or grabbed on the street in 35 years, the stats have nothing has gone up. But in those 35 years, we've developed from no announcement to the milk cartons. Remember the milk cartons with the disappeared kid, to Amber Alerts, none of which I'm knocking. There are real cases. But the reality is that the number of kids that get quote unquote kidnapped has not gone up in 35 years. Not at all, not one little bit. Yet, because of the announcements and how we perceive the world, people don't let their kids walk outside. And it's a shame. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
No, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
probably part of that anxiety too, raising my kids, but I do think that it leads to people not being as comfortable with their natural environments and not being more anxious. And I was going to say about this, it's a really cool list of why you need to walk. You probably could add some of the things that people have said, but they're not quite health related. It's about, getting a better sense of community and meeting your neighbors and support in getting to know and supporting your local businesses. So, but, maybe that complicates this list. Like, you want people to grab it.
A sense of place, right?
Yeah,
What
a
I
sense
love
of place,
about
yeah.
What Lee has created in this community,
Yeah.
it is helping people reconnect with that and reassess that as a really important part of where they live. I think many, like your sisters, gain a community experience. So for me, that's the antithesis of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And yet it's so common that a lot of people live in that kind of environment and they're kind of okay with it. And they're often not aware of the sustenance that you're talking about, which is a huge missing emotional ingredient, particularly around food. I love that thing that keeps coming up with you.
Food is a really important part of getting people. When we do the neighborhood leadership program, which is a program with the Community Foundation, that is partly informed in terms of its structure by my experience. So like I tell people coming to the neighborhood leadership program, I'm not just telling you that this is a good thing for you to do in your community. I'm actually doing it and figuring out how to do it in my community, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work, because we've had failures and we've also had things that have just stopped happening because since we don't have a staff, we don't have an organization, we're not even incorporated. Our association is not in any way. So what happens is there's parents that want to do soccer, and we organize soccer stuff in our neighborhood, and then somebody points out to the parents organizing the soccer, you know, you invite kids from the projects, and if one of those kids hurts themselves, there's no program, it's just you. You are gonna get sued. And like, that was the end of the soccer program, because the parents got scared, right? We don't have a law that protects Good Samaritans beyond like accidents and stuff. There are other states actually that have expanded their Good Samaritan laws for people doing social good in the community, but that hasn't happened here. So we've had stuff like that that has been stopped dead in its tracks. But I don't want to let our time together pass without telling you about two things that aren't going on that I want to do, that I'm excited about, trying to figure out how to bring them here. So there is an organization in Boston called the Ujima Project, UJIMA. And I love what they're doing, because what they have done, which I think I could do, which I think could happen in my neighborhood. I don't want to do it. But if you want to do it, I'll work with you. So what they do is they've aggregated people like I have. Some of you, I see some nodding heads. I don't know, have any of you heard of the Ujima Project at all? Okay. So what they aggregate people, and they get people in the neighborhood to invest. They put money into a fund. I think it's like $25 a year. Then they get other people who don't live in the neighborhood to put money in that same pool. And the people who are putting money in from the outside are in some cases banks and individual donors. And they're told, if you put money in this fund, we pay between 1% and 4% is the return on that. It's not a donation, it's an investment. If you can put money in and are willing to put in, and you live and you're not in the neighborhood, you get 1%. If you live in the neighborhood, you get 4%. Because why? Because it's Dorchester and it's JP, Jamaica Plains. These are among the poorest neighborhoods. They are the Fairhaven, Dixwell, New Hallville of Boston. And then they take that money and they say to the people in the neighborhood, so who's running a business in our neighborhood that is doing good? They're providing a service that we want to keep in the neighborhood. And then they go to those businesses and they say, so what do you need? You need to do a little facade improvement? You need to buy a new refrigerator? We can lend you money. Here's what we need from you. We need a business plan that shows how you're going to pay the money back, because this isn't a gift, this is a loan. We do not need your credit history, we don't care about that. But we're going to invite you to a meeting, and you darn well better make sure that there's people there from the community that are going to vouch for you and say, yes, we want this business. Yes, this is a business that treats people fairly. Yes, this is a business that doesn't discriminate. And then they lend them money. They lend them, they make them a loan, and they're, I don't have all the details about the amount, but these are hundreds and thousands of dollars they're being loaned to keep the businesses open. Then they went another step and they said, what's missing in the community? And let's use our network and let's find someone. So I'm imagining a meeting in my community where we say to people, so who knows somebody who runs the dry cleaners? Because we have, is it true? Do you all feel that the need to have a dry cleaners, or is that need being met somewhere else or in some other way? And then we would recruit someone, and how nice would it be for someone to be invited to open a business in a neighborhood and say, we're not going to lend you all the money you need to really open a business from the ground up, but we're willing to invest in you as the neighborhood and as the people that are going to be your customers. So that's one. And then the other one is an organization born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the name of the organization is Incremental Development. It's incrementaldevelopment.org. And I first heard about them in this very space, right here, not just in the district, but literally I sat like right there and heard the guy make a presentation. And what he said is, I'm a contractor, little contractor. I have friends who are plumbers, carpenters, realtors, architects, and we get hired all the time by these big companies, big people, big developers, the ones that New Haven is dying to have, right, as a city. And sometimes we don't even like the project or believe in the project, but that's our bread and butter. And so they're sitting commiserating literally in a restaurant, and on a napkin they come up with the idea, what if we just aggregate ourselves the way a large developer would, and we look for opportunities. Now we're not going to do the 84-unit building that the Mary Wade Home is building. That's a $27 million project. But there's that building on Grand Avenue where the dry cleaners used to be that needs some tender loving care. And there's this opportunity and that opportunity. And what we could do is we could become developers of our main street and of our not so main street and acquire buildings that are either strictly for a business or mixed use. We stay under 5 units of housing, sometimes 3 or 4 units with 1 commercial unit, because we're going to stay away from commercial loans. This is going to be all done on personal loans, personal credit. The stories these people can tell you about doing development in Atlanta, in Dallas, in Lafayette, Louisiana, are amazing. I would like to try to figure out, I'm trying to encourage and support the Community Foundation, helping. We had a meeting a few months ago, we had 24 people show up, and it was great, because not a one of them was a donor to the Community Foundation, and not a one of them, well, there was one nonprofit. Everybody else was an architect, a couple of realtors, a demolition guy, a GC, a general contractor, doing small jobs. But what we need for them is access to capital. They don't have access to capital. No one will lend to them because they don't have that proven track record. So that's what I want to try to figure out, a way for us to use some of our money that we're beginning to walk into this arena of credit to do stuff like that. Because how beautiful would that be to have people in our neighborhoods that are the poorest, but we have people who live there that have the skill set to have a reason to aggregate themselves, because there is credit available to them to revitalize the very neighborhoods where they live. So those are the 2 things. They're not happening. I would love to talk to anybody who has an idea for how they can help me to make them happen, because I have no interest or expertise to do them. I just think that they would be cool things to bring to the table.
Wow. It's all about the community idea, but serving the community needs in other ways, micro loans, those kind of things, and keeping it within that place, the smaller place.
Well, that second one, incremental development, more so, is about helping people to create their own wealth.
Right.
We have people who are with us at the Community Foundation who have created their own wealth, and out of that wealth, they're giving, oftentimes, it's their excess. And if any of you have excess wealth that you want to give, I'm not going to make a plug for the Community Foundation. I'm going to make a plug that you read the book Decolonizing Wealth by Edgar Villanueva. Edgar Villanueva, despite his name, is not Latino. He's actually Native American. But in that book, as someone who worked in foundations, he said the challenge is to get people to really seriously think about taking a chunk of their wealth and putting it in the hands of the people who made it possible for them to be wealthy. And there is not a one of us who is wealthy enough to be philanthropic who isn't where we are myself included, because somebody else made a sacrifice or because somebody else was exploited. So this is real. And then the other element is figuring out ways like incremental development where people who are used by people with wealth to enhance and increase their wealth, giving those people an opportunity to create their own wealth and to create wealth in their community by creating value. A building that's dilapidated now has a dry cleaners in it. A building that was residential units that weren't that has burned down, let's get it back on the market. And this is not to take away from the work that nonprofits do in spaces where the market is not working. It's to say that before we automatically assume, oh, poor neighborhood, the only way this is going to go up is because somebody is being philanthropic, maybe we say, well, wait a second, maybe there is a market opportunity here if we help to finance, to provide credit for the people who would fix it as a market unit, as a market opportunity. That helps people to create their own wealth, and where there is wealth, there is power.
Yeah, that's, it's such a now problem too, the wealth gap and the disparities. Everyone's talking about the stock market. We're talking about people that have no, mutual funds to bear back on, and it's becoming such a divisive issue in this culture.
And I'm not, just to be clear, I'm not talking about let's take our wealth and give it to people who have no idea, who have no plan. There are people like that. They have no idea, they have no plan. But there are so many people that I am meeting with, not morning, noon, and night, but I just keep running into them. They have an idea for business. They have a business plan. They have been making widgets for a long time, and they know how to make a gosh darn good widget, but they don't know how to market. Nobody will give them a loan. They don't know how to do a number of things. This is what, tying it back to, for a moment, to the work in Nicaragua. This is one of the things I learned working in Nicaragua. I worked in Nicaragua from 1985 to 1992 doing charity work. And then my friend Alan Wright, God bless him, emailed me, called me something, he was in the United States. He said, you hear about this guy, Eunice something or other? He just won the Nobel Peace Prize for economics, in economics, I think it was. He set up the Green Bank in Bangladesh to lend to poor people. And I said, no, I haven't heard. What's up with that? He said, yeah, this guy, he just won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's lending money to poor people, $50 to buy a bag of grain, which they turn around and sell, and then every week somebody from the Grameen Bank comes and collects money from them, like $5 or $10, whatever their loan payment is. He said, I want to do that. So we started with $40,000 that belonged to him and his family, and me and my family, and Sostenica is now a $2.8 million loan fund in Nicaragua that has moved from lending to bodegas in poor neighborhoods in León, Nicaragua, to guys and women who ride out into the countryside on a motorcycle with a cell phone that has an app, and on the spot they will lend $3,000 to $5,000 to a farmer who needs it for 12 to 18 months for the harvest to come. This is the money they use to buy the seeds and buy the fertilizer and so on and so forth. But if we only did that, Sostenica wouldn't exist, because the problem for them was not just they couldn't get the money for credit, they hadn't aggregated themselves to get their product out to the market. So people would come with a truck and buy their tomatoes for nothing, and then turn around and sell them at whatever the market rate was in the market. So what we started with is a technical program, and we actually, Sostenica does not do this. Our Nicaraguan partner, Ceprodel, does this. We lend to a Nicaraguan NGO, a Nicaraguan nonprofit, and they make all the loans. And this is their staff that is doing what I'm talking about. But they have access to our capital. And by the way, now capital from the Church of Germany, the Inter-American Bank, we have $2.5 million with them. I think they're running like a $30 million operation. And what they do is lend to poor people more and more out in the countryside, and very important, provide technical training. Because just because you know how to grow tomato or corn doesn't mean that you know how to sell it, or that you have the means to be able to sell it. So all of that is included. I'm no longer on the board of Sostenica, but when I was on the board of Sostenica, 97% of the money loaned out was paid back on time. And the most common reason why people defaulted on their loan was a natural disaster. 77% of the people that got loans were women. Because if a woman starts a business and she makes money, she supports her family. And with all the problems with alcohol in indigenous communities, many of the men, the money, I deserve a beer, and then a drink, and then another drink. So more women get loans because more women pay them back on time. And we started that in 92, 93. Now there's micro-lending all over the world, and in Mexico, the banks got micro-lending organizations banned because you can make money off of lending money to poor people. They pay back really well. So once the market was established, the banks went into, but that's another story.
Yes, sir.
It's amazing work. I'm a kind of a strategy guy, so I always like to look at metrics, right?
Yeah.
You've been at this a long time. Do you have any metrics that you guys track to say, you know, whether it's business profitability or real estate values or prime rates or anything else, to say that what you're doing is moving the needle in a certain direction?
I do not. I have anecdotal stories, interviews that I've done with business owners on our main street. I am actually right now in conversation with a video production company. It's really one guy, but he's pretty well known in New Haven about creating a video where they provide those testimonials. But that would be a huge help, would be to get help from, I don't know, somebody that works at like a business school that happens to be in town. I'm not looking at anybody in particular here. but to actually help us to develop those metrics, that would be huge.
Do you know your vacancy rate on Grand Avenue is very, very low?
Absolutely.
I mean, very low, because there was a citywide program that helped creative entrepreneurs move into vacant storefronts, but we never had one in his neighborhood because they just weren't there.
Didn't need it.
Right.
Yeah. Right now, from the Quinnipiac River all the way down to the end of the railroad tracks, there are 2 empty spots. There's probably space for over 90 businesses, and there's 2 that are vacant. One is the dry cleaners that just closed down, and the other one has been a problem. It was an old glass and tire factory, and I've got plan A, plan B, and plan C for how to fill it, but it takes time.
Do you want to take a poll?
So, are there any, and if so, which ones, pre-existing either community organizations or networks that you use to help both mobilize people, and also in that model that you're referring to from Boston or even the Grameen Bank, it's all about social connections. It's one reason why people pay back is because loans are made in some sense to a group, right? And it replicates that old model of ethnic entrepreneurs where they come in and everybody puts in some money, and you get a loan this time, and then when you pay it back the next person, right? And we're all watching you to make sure that you pay back, right? So it's your friends, it's your community that keep you honest. So what networks do you use? How is the community structured?
Yeah. So first, but just for clarification, we have not done, nor is Ujima Bank any sort of a lending circle. Each loan is individual. I think what makes it work is some of the same principles that operate in there, which is like every day the people that are coming into your business, any one of them could be someone who has lent you money, right? And so you're going to treat them better, and you recognize that. And that's what I'm seeing in my neighborhood, that people walk into a business, and even if they don't say, I'm a member of the Chatham Square Neighborhood Association, or I'm here because of the association, even if they don't say that, people know that local people are coming back. So what are the congregations? So there's 500 people on our neighborhood website who it's free to join if you live in our neighborhood. The only benefit to joining is that every week I send out an email that, like a blast, that tells you about what's going on in the neighborhood. We have talked about having like a membership fee, but we haven't decided to do that because we want to keep the threshold for being a member as low as possible. That's why we haven't done that. So that's one aggregation, and the fact that so many people have signed up and then allows me to get the word out about the social good and about, like, let me just tell you really quickly, social good tied to the other thing we do. So we do soup night. We do it at someone's house every other month, and then this is how things develop in our neighborhood. Somebody says, well, we always do it at someone's house. We should do it at a nonprofit because, like, that way we can like bring people there. We can raise awareness. So we go to Bergamo's Theater and we have a soup night, and 27 people show up, and everybody has a good time. And we spontaneously do one of those storytelling things where people go up on the stage, and it was felt really good. Then someone said, oh, the Land Trust has a garden not too far from where City Seed has a farmer's market. Let's do one there in June. So we remind people about the gardens, and then we tell people about the upcoming farmer's market, which also supports local businesses. So we're doing that all fine and good. And then the earthquakes start happening in Puerto Rico. A whole series of earthquakes, if you haven't heard about them. And people are leaving the island, and particularly families are sending kids, particularly high school kids, who some of them have been accepted to college, but they can't finish high school because their high school has been condemned. And they send elderly and disabled people because they can't run out of the houses. But people in Puerto Rico love their island, and they're not going to leave unless they have to. So we have about 60 people that have come here. And Junta for Progressive Action, which is a local nonprofit that serves the Latino community, is serving them. So we decided to have a soup night at Junta to raise awareness that they're there and that they're doing this work. And then the director of Junta did what directors of nonprofits do. She said, well, this is great, raise friends, but like, we could really use some money. So what occurred to me is, like, what is the opportunity in this? So it costs $50 to $100 to buy the soup for soup night. So I asked everybody on our list, no, I didn't ask everybody. I went through our list and I picked 80 people who I know are more affluent, like myself. And I said, I would like to ask you to pay for soup night at Junta because they need money. We can't ask them for money. Because whoever hosts soup night pays for the soup. And so I told them, I'm asking a whole bunch of people, and after the first $100 to buy the soup, everything else is going to be given to Junta. We are, it's going to be on Sunday night, March 1st, 5 to 7. We are at $600, and we're on a trajectory. We're probably going to give them $900 because people are paying for the privilege of going to eat soup at a local nonprofit on Sunday night, and the value of it is we're going to invite Channel 8 and the Register and all the good local media, and we're going to say to them, this is how a poor neighborhood responds to a need somewhere else because we are connected to them. We are in relationship with them. There are so many people from Puerto Rico in our neighborhood. This is just what we do. You cannot buy that sort of advertising for your business or for your nonprofit. That is goodwill that we are engendering for ourselves, and the people who are paying for it are the people who can afford to pay for it. And they're paying for it in a way that benefits directly some of the neediest people among us. It's a win-win-win. And that's what we're looking to create, and that's the value that I try to bring. So at the beginning we said, my work at the Community Foundation as Director of Community Outreach is I connect nonprofits, people, and businesses to create social and economic capital. And that's what's behind all of this work. It's like, what's the opportunity here to help you to do good while you're doing good for yourself in a way that moves our community forward. And if any, I'll repeat this again because we're repeating, if anyone has any thoughts about how we can get some people to help us to develop metrics, because I think you're right, we need metrics around this work, I would love to have that conversation.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Lee, you've been very generous with your time and your big ideas and your crazy ambitions, but I'm very inspired by it, and I'm grateful for everyone coming. I think it's time we should just wrap it up now, but of course, everyone's willing to stay.
Yeah, I can stick around. I got permission from my kids, from my wife and my kids. Yeah. I am allowed to stay all late tonight.
But I'm very grateful, Lee.
So feel free to take the map with you. If you don't want it, leave it here. We will use it. It's not for you.
We'll talk later, but yeah.
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 Oh, it does.